Good evening, everybody. Hello and welcome. My name is Jenny Delwood, Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Karen Bass. We are so grateful for everybody coming together today to be in community and to lean on one another as we return and rebuild the Palisades as strong as possible. Today, we are going to hear from Mayor Karen Bass, followed by Councilmember Tracy Park, and then Chief Recovery Officer Steve Soberoff. After that, Mayor Bass will share a few critical updates around the Pacific Palisades right now in terms of re-entering your properties and our disaster recovery center and so forth. Then the bulk of our program will be focused on debris removal. There are a couple of key announcements that we need to make today in terms of getting everybody started on that debris removal process. So we are fortunate to have the US EPA, as well as the LA County Public Works Department and the Army Corps of Engineers with us today. We also have a Q&A function for this webinar. If you have a question, you're welcome to put it in the Q&A portion of this webinar. Just click on that Q&A with a question mark logo and write your question into the chat. Those answers will be provided in writing to the full group here. And then some of those questions we'll answer via video. We will go ahead and share this video with all of you and the community later on YouTube, so you can take a look and go back to the materials as you need. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Mayor Karen Bass to share some opening remarks.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being on. We know now, good news, the Palisades fire is at 95% containment, thanks to the dedication and commitment of our firefighters. And what we wanted to do tonight and on subsequent nights, every Tuesday and Thursday where it's appropriate, we want to do these webinars so that you have one source of information that you can trust in a consistent venue. We want to make sure that you get the information and that you have up-to-the-minute information. And if you need to hear from anyone, any of the experts, any of the city departments, that you are able to speak directly to them. So we're going to be doing online briefings, again, that we will host as needed, but when we do them, it'll probably be on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You will hear about them through text messages. We have our comprehensive information hub that we always describe at lacity.gov. And then there's our in-person disaster recovery center at Westwood on Pico and Westwood Boulevard. I hope you have an opportunity to stop by there. We have already talked to and helped thousands of Angelenos. And emails and text alerts at mayor.lacity.gov. And soon, as I mentioned on Sunday, we will have a one-stop center. It'll be in West LA in the beginning, and then we want to put it in the rec center when we can get the smoke cleared out. But it'll be a one-stop center where all of the appropriate city departments will be there. So when it comes to the rebuilding process, that you will be able to get the information that you need in one place and won't have to run around through various city departments. So effective yesterday at 1 p.m., all residents in the Palisades can access their properties to assess the damage. Escorts are no longer required for entry in the evacuation zones, and contractors can also enter the area with proof of authorization. So we announced a major step forward in the rebuild today by releasing the process to let the County of Los Angeles know whether you wish to receive free debris removal in phase 2 through the Army Corps of Engineers, or whether you will hire your own contractor for debris removal. In a minute, you will hear from your councilwoman, who has never wavered in her commitment, and she couldn't be a bigger champion for the residents of Palisades. You are also going to hear from Palisade longtime resident Steven Soberoff, who's our Chief Recovery Officer, as well as other experts that will be here. So as I've said from the beginning, my pledge to you is to do everything possible. My commitment is for you to get home. The debris removal is a critical process. We know that this is in different phases, and we'll go through those again tonight. And today the website launched for you to go in and do the right of entry. And I know that there's some issues related to that, and we will address those. So I look forward to this conversation with you. And again, we will continue these conversations to make sure that you have up to the minute information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Bass. And now we are going to hear from the council member of the 11th Council District, Councilmember Tracy Park.
Jenny, thank you. And Mayor Bass, thank you so much for bringing our community together this evening for a really important conversation. I just want to say to all of my friends and neighbors in the Pacific Palisades, I know these 21 days have been extraordinarily challenging. I know that it has tested everyone's patience. And I know that we have a challenging road ahead, but I am also very encouraged by the signs of progress. And even though some of the reopening and the communication has been clunky and oftentimes short on details, I want you to know that I am here on the ground fighting to make sure that you have the information that you need so that you can make informed decisions and that we stick together as a community and center your voices and your concerns and your visions in all of the steps that we take forward together to rebuild the Palisades. I am really glad that we are hosting this meeting this evening to get some more information and clarity around clearing lots and the right of entry process that went live today, as Mayor Bass mentioned, and we have received a lot of calls and emails with questions. So I am very grateful that we have people here from the county this evening who hopefully will be able to address some of those specific questions. I wanted to just briefly give an overview of what we know about the debris removal process so far. Phase 1 is managed by the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. They are here with us this evening, and their work is already underway as of this week. All damaged properties are being assessed and cleared of hazardous materials, things like damaged propane tanks, lithium from power walls or EV batteries, and household chemicals. Phase 1 is mandated by the EPA. There is no opt-out process for that. Phase 2 is the actual debris removal, and that is being led and managed by the County of LA in partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They have now created and will maintain the right of entry and opt-out forms that many of you have already seen. And you have to make a decision before March 31st on which path you choose to take. There are two options. One, you can participate in the no cost to out-of-pocket cost to you government program. You can opt in for that, or you can opt out and use your own resources and your insurance to hire contractors and go through the county permitting process. But I want to make sure everyone understands that once they opt out, that decision is final. You can't change your mind and opt in later. So like many of you, I know there are questions. When will phase 1 be completed? Does that mean we can get started on our lot right away? What is the soil removal for the process for phase 2? How many inches, and is any testing going to be required? And then I've heard a concern from residents that if they opt in, but change their mind and opt out, the insurance assignment would not be revoked and they could potentially lose their debris removal insurance proceeds. So we want to make sure that the county is able to give us some clear answers on that. And I just want you guys to know that we are here to work with you every step of the way. So please feel free to reach out to me and my team if there's anything that we can do. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Council Member. Next up, we have Chief Recovery Officer Steve Soberoff. Steve, come on video and take yourself off mute. There
There
you
I
go.
am. Hey, everybody. Yesterday, we took a walk around the Palisades with a few residents and a number of media. We walked over by Ralph's. I spoke with Ralph's today about opening a pop-up store there while they do their construction. I believe they will. I mean, we'll be starting on that. They'll be tearing that Ralph's down as soon as they finish, as soon as phase one is finished, the inspection there. They're going to self-help. They're not going to do phase two. Phase two by opting in. I'll continue to walk with groups as long as it's productive. What I see is that the phase one progress is clear and strong, and the rule of thumb is the more people we get on the ground, the faster it will be finished. And I think I'm not sure when they're ready to announce what the new schedule is for phase one, but I would really encourage two things, and then we'll take the questions. Don't sell your property to people who are offering cash that are bottom fishers, that are taking advantage of this situation. Because in a very short period of time, your property will be worth double or triple what they're offering you right now. And I say that because when phase two is complete and the utilities are complete, and they call it debris removal, I sort of call it lot clearance. When your lot is clear and when it is ready to be buildable, and if you were to start your plans sooner than later, which I encourage you to do, your property will be worth a lot more than it is today. So the doomsday buyers, I don't like it. Think of it as a phone call to cheat you, and all this Mayday stuff. I really don't like. The second thing is that on your plans, and the councilwoman and the mayor, we're working on a process to outsource approval of those plans. And on your, as a rule of thumb, 110% preserve the character of the neighborhood, and obviously you'll be upgrading to code and using more fire resistant and safer materials, etc. The other suggestion that I have is there are going to be gaps for everyone. And that's the difference between what you recover from the insurance company and FEMA and the cost of your construction. The costs are going to go up because just the cost of the commodities are going to go up with these massive numbers. The cost of labor is going to go up. So I don't want to give you a prediction of what it's going to cost $1,000 a square foot, because everybody will lose their appetite. But there's going to be a gap. We're meeting with banks, we're meeting with insurance companies to try and help you fill that gap. But if it was me, I would get an attorney that's gonna help you and push back on your insurance company, because they always offer nothing or a little or lower. Get some help, so you're not dealing with your insurance company and even with your bank as first time. So that's my advice. Mayor?
Steve, let me just ask, I know that everybody knows you, but yesterday when we did that walk and we spoke to the media, there was a plaque behind there. Would you talk about what you did in terms of the rec center and your vision around the 4th of July, the 10K?
40 years ago, 39 years ago, I was at the Palisades Rec Center with my, at that time, we only had one, no, I think we only had one kid. It was Jacob. I think he was 2 years old. And if any of you remember, there was a Space Needle there. And I climbed up in the Space Needle with Jacob, holding on to him. Thought it'd be good. And I hit my head, and I still have the scar there, but it started bleeding. So I went down into the office at the recreation center, and I asked the rec center, I said, hey, do you have any Band-Aids here? And he opened up a cabinet that I thought was going to be full of sporting goods. It was full of first aid equipment. And I said, what is that? He goes, oh, people are getting hurt here all the time. I said, well, why don't you put the new equipment in? And he said, well, we're on the list. It's supposed to be 11 and a half years. Dick Reardon was Parks Commissioner then. So I got neighbors together, and we rebuilt the playground in 91 days using, following all the city rules. And on that plaque, which is still there today, are the names of all the Chevy Chases and people who gave $500 or $10. And so for me, this is full circle, right back to the park. So we feel that the hub of Palisades is that park, that library, the churches right around there, and all of us have had this experience of going to Ralph's or going to the car wash and putting your car in the car wash, and while you're there, you do 5 other things. You can go to the hardware store, you can go to the drugstore, you can go to the market, you can go get nails done, etc. And then you come back and get your car. That's what a village is about. So that village needs to emerge very quickly. And the mayor has authorized that the Parks Department and the Department of Library already begin their plans to rebuild. And I heard today that what Ralph's is doing, and as part of that, let's see how many people are on this thing. 600, 700. All of us enjoy the 4th of July parade, and all of us enjoy the 10K. I ran on the first one, and I think I've walked one since then, but whether it's a 5 or 10K. And they are a part of the tradition of Pacific Palisades. And they should happen this year. And whether or not it'll be a 5K or a 2K, whether or not it will be a 4th of July parade or a mini parade, it should happen because people want to get together. They're not going to be living in they're not all going to be living together. And it's going to show how we're coming back. Simon Meadow, it might be a good place to start it. But I'm willing to help, and anybody that's putting those things on. But this is going to be a centerpiece and a statement of the rebirth of the next generation of Pacific Palisades. We have a map. One more thing, Mayor. We have a map of every neighborhood, and we know how many houses were there, how many houses burnt down, how many houses had damage. We have daily aerials that are flying over, and eventually you're going to be able to log on to an app and see your house in real time and ask any question you want. I see how many questions there are here. You can ask any question that you want into that app, and it will point you in the direction or give you the answer, almost like we do now on, what is that thing called? Safari or Google or whatever it is. But it's going to be very user-friendly and very helpful. And I can't believe how many people are supportive, how many people are hugging instead of yelling. I think that's changing dramatically because the yelling doesn't do any good.
That's for sure.
And the hugging does.
So we'll move into slides. Thank you, Steve. I
You're welcome.
just think it's an incredible vision. I wanted to hear you share it, but we'll move into the slides now. And you're going to increase that. Good. Okay, take it away. So access to properties, a key issue, and we're going to need to continue conversations around this. So you know that escorts are no longer needed. We do recommend that you get your access passes and the addresses up there. And I know that people are familiar with that. And of course, there has to be the proofs of residency in order to enter. Next slide. So contractors are able to go in. I know that this has been an issue. People were concerned that unless the contractor was with them, they were concerned that they wouldn't be able to go in. So contractors can go in, but they do have to have ID and proof of hire by the residents. Next slide. And again, we've talked a lot about this over the days, and I know the councilwoman has also talked about this. We are concerned about the hazardous waste. It is not safe to go into the areas in terms of the environment, the fact that the hazardous waste has not been removed. And so we ask that you go in with full PPE and most importantly, the N95 mask. Next slide. So the Disaster Recovery Center, I mentioned in my opening comments, I do hope you have an opportunity to go by. There's a lot of resources that are there, or you should suggest for people to go by to get a variety of resources on every level of government. And as you can see, over 5,000 people have visited so far. Next slide. So the debris removal process, the councilwoman went through this, but I'm going to just briefly repeat it because you've already heard it. We know that we're in, next slide, phase 1. And phase 1 is the federal EPA surveying and removing hazardous waste. This is not our decision locally. I think there was some confusion around that today. This is a federal standard. After the EPA has cleared and all other debris can begin, then there's two options for phase 2. Two options for phase 2. Next slide.
And Mayor, we can go ahead and pass it to the EPA at this point in time. And they can go into the details of phase 1 and phase 2, unless you had anything more that you wanted to say.
No. Go right ahead.
All right, excellent. So Steve, if you can please come off mute and come on video, we'd greatly appreciate it. Everybody, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Deputy Incident Commander. Steve, are you there?
I am, Jenny. Can you hear me?
All right, great. Steve Calinog, go ahead.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Mayor. Mayor, you're doing a great job explaining our job. Phase 1, in the aftermath of fires and federally declared disasters, is something I've been doing for over 15 years in the West Coast and in Hawaii. We have to go in, and our job, as in other fires, in this fire, is to remove all the hazardous materials to begin clearing the way for the phase 2 debris removal work that's going to be done by the Army Corps of Engineers. As Councilmember Park described as well, we are looking for things that you would find in your house or that are in the homes that are considered hazardous materials, such as paint, cleaners, solvents, oils, batteries, and lithium-ion batteries. Those would be items like power walls. And if you had a destroyed electric vehicle, an electric vehicle that was burned in the fire, we may conduct an assessment and determine that we need to remove the batteries from that. Pesticides, fertilizers, ammunition, and compressed gas cylinders. We are, as Mr. Soboroff alluded to, have begun our work in the Palisades as of yesterday, and are going to increase our footprint significantly by this weekend. In the Palisades, we're targeting to have over 500 personnel to stand up and initiate over 30 teams to collect household hazardous materials from the community there. As you may know, we've also been directed to speed up an already speeded up response. And our goal is to complete our phase one work in a few weeks. We're here to help the communities of the Palisades and the communities of Altadena and the Eaton Fire impacts. We'll be here working hard and as quickly as possible, and we'll be here until the job is done. And I'll turn it back to you, Jenny.
Thank you so much, Steve. We really appreciate it. And we will get into questions for you in just a couple minutes. There are many of them. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
I forgot the most important thing. Phase one is completely free to homeowners. This is a completely federally funded project. There's no cost to homeowners and property owners.
All right, everybody, to recap, if we could go back to phase one slide. EPA, free process. Hazardous household materials will be removed. And as announced by President Trump, this will be happening in the next couple of weeks by the end of February. So thank you, EPA, for all that you're doing to accelerate your processes. And thank you to everybody on the line who has advocated to ensure that this happens as quickly as possible. We're going to go ahead and now bring on Principal Engineer Chris Shepard from the LA County Department of Public Works to explain phase two and the right of entry forms and opting in and opting out. Chris Shepard.
Thank you, Jenny. You can hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. Really appreciate it. As Councilmember Park mentioned this evening already, we did release the right of entry forms today. They were available on the recovery.lacounty.gov website. They're available in PDF format to download and also in electronic format you can submit online. There are also hard copies will be available at the disaster recovery centers for people to fill out. And we have county staff there that are able to answer your questions about the forms and help walk you through what is needed for the forms. So real quick, let me just mention there's the opt-in process. And again, for this, pass slide, please. Sorry. So for the phase two debris removal, this program is at no direct cost to residents. I know there's been a lot of questions about that cost. The form will say that you're being asked to provide your insurance documentation for the program and assign insurance proceeds over to the government after debris removal has occurred. There has been a question that's come up that was mentioned earlier about those insurance proceeds. And if you opt in, but then withdraw from the program, do you still have to pay those insurance proceeds? And if no work has been done on your property yet, then no, you do not have to turn over any insurance proceeds. So if you opt in, let me say that again, if you opt in and no work has been done on your property and you withdraw from the program, you do not have any obligation to turn over insurance proceeds because no work has been done on your property. So I know that was a very common question we saw today and that we're seeing through our hotline. So I wanted to be sure to answer that. So real quick too, just a couple quick things that you're going to want to have when you go to fill out the form online or in person. You're going to want to have a copy of your government ID. You're going to want to have your assessor's parcel map number, which you can find from your property tax records, or you can look it up online. You can also ask at our assistance centers and we can help to find that number for you. You're going to want to have a copy of your insurance policy and the declaration pages related to debris removal. And then you're also going to want to have information about the ownership of your property. Our main role in this process of the ROE collection process is to validate the ownership of the parcels, to make sure that the owners are the ones applying for the assistance. And then as we validate that ownership, that's when we turn the right of entry forms over to the Army Corps of Engineers, and that gives them the right to then access the property and perform the work under the phase two program. So that's really our main role in reviewing these forms. So again, there's another piece to the form. It's a sketch. And I know sometimes people say, you know, I can't draw my entire property. I need an engineering drawing in order to be able to do this. No, very simple sketch of the property, just showing some key items, things like if you know where the utilities come into the property from the front or the back or the side, where some key things are on the property, if you have a septic tank or anything of that nature, or a water well and you know where that is. By indicating these things in a sketch, it helps the Army Corps to, have some advanced intelligence about the property before they go out and do the site visit. And I'll let the Colonel speak more about their process on that. And then next, I know there's a lot of questions about opting out. So this is a choice. You can opt out of the phase 2 debris removal program, and so we do have a form online for that as well, a PDF version and an electronic version of that form. You can fill that out and submit it, and there will be an approval process for that. It cannot, you cannot begin debris removal on your property until the EPA phase 1 assessment has been completed. And that will be, that approval process will be through our Epic LA system. We're working closely with the cities on that, and you will be required to follow all city regulations through that process. In no way does county approval waive the requirements for you to follow any local ordinance in the city that you're in, whether that be a tree protection ordinance or any other type of ordinance. So I just want to make that really clear that that's not a waiver of those requirements. And so that permit approval system will be up and running next week with more information for contractors and how to access that system. Again, it's through our Epic LA permit portal. And so once again, I want to say that the debris removal online forms are available. Then they are available on recovery.lacounty.gov. There's the top button is debris removal. They're right there. And then if you have questions about the form, you can contact our hotline. It's 844-347-3332. That's 844-347-3332. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chris. We really appreciate it. We will come back to you for questions in just a few minutes, but we appreciate the overview. And last but not least, we want to review the free program, opt-in program for debris removal that is led by the Army Corps of Engineers. And today we have Colonel Eric Swenson from the Army Corps of Engineers to review what is involved in the opt-in debris removal program led by the largest construction company in the world, the Army Corps of Engineers. Colonel Swenson, you're up. And we can go to the next slide, please.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good evening. Thank you for having me on this. As said, Colonel Eric Swenson for the Army Corps of Engineers. So once you make the determination to opt in to the private property debris removal program, we will conduct a property assessment. And that assessment will look for things that vehicles, cars, trees, gives us an idea of what's on your property so that we can arrange our resources efficiently to get this fire debris removed as quickly and safely as possible. Now, some homes that are out there may still have standing structures, multiple walls, maybe the superstructure. And so those properties, once deemed eligible, we will have to then go and request a demolition permit and do demolition for that project first. I like to call that enhanced debris removal. So it's more of a two-part process where we have to go in and remove those overhead hazards so that it is safe for our crews to work on the ground. Once those overhead hazards are removed, then we will go in and remove the fire ash and debris. Let me take a quick step back. If we did find asbestos, we would have to do an asbestos abatement process first, and then we would move into the hazardous debris. So what you can expect when one of our crews comes to your property on the day before they come, they will call the homeowner to let them know that we are arriving within the next 24 hours and ask them if they want to come to the site to watch the debris removal. That is completely optional, but if you come, we would ask that you stay at a safe distance. We will then conduct a 360 assessment of the property. Again, we've done the the hazardous site assessment first. So we know what we're looking at. We've read your ROE. So we've read your sketch and we know what you have told us is on your property. And then we want to get our eyes on with the actual crew that's going to do the debris removal. So they will review on site what they see on the property. And then depending on if you have any hazard trees or vehicles that are in the way, it'll determine how we sequence the debris removal. But on a standard house, we might show up. We will then take your title property. That could be a boat, a trailer, a burned vehicle, and we will remove that item and haul it to a proper recycling station. If it's a titled car, it'll go to a staging area so that the county can come out and adjudicate the car, and then it will be crushed and sent to the recycling stream. If you have hazard trees, we will send a tree crew out, and they will safely remove the hazard trees so that they don't fall on our crew or later on you as you return to your property. The next thing will come in and we'll take the ash that's on top of the foundation and around the ash footprint. Now, when you signed your ROE, you had a choice. You could either have us remove your foundation or you could have us leave your foundation. If you chose for us to take your foundation, we will then break your foundation up and we'll remove your foundation and take that to a concrete recycling station. If we don't take your foundation, then we will work around your foundation, removing the ash and fire debris that is on it, as well as the soil that's in the ash footprint. So that's the space sort of immediately around where the structure was standing. We will remove 6 inches of that soil to make sure we remove any of the hazards that may have fallen onto that ground. We want to get that out, and we'll put that in a vehicle and also put that in the appropriate debris stream. Then we'll come in and we'll do a final inspection of the property to make sure that we've received that we've taken all of the hazards off of that property. Now, let me just talk a little bit about where that debris is going. So it's going to go into dump trucks, and in those dump trucks, in the bed of those dump trucks is going to be a plastic liner. So we're going to put a plastic liner in first, then we're going to put the debris inside the plastic liner, and then we're all familiar with burritos out here, so we will wrap the debris like you would wrap a burrito so that it is nice and tight, and then we will put the tarp down on top, the truck's tarp on top of the burrito, so that none of that hazardous material can be discharged during transit to the landfill. Once all that's complete, we'll then do erosion control to put down and any best management practices for erosion. So we'll put straw wattles on the property, and then we'll do a final inspection, and then we'll return that property, that right of entry, back to the local government agent for the eventual return back to the homeowner. And that completes private property debris removal.
Thank you so much, Colonel Swenson. And now we're going to move into some of our Q&A, particularly focused on the debris removal process. Thank you, everybody, for your presentations. And we can go ahead and take down the slides. So go ahead and take them down completely until we get to the next section. Thank you. So one question from Joan Reese is, will debris removal be available for homes that are standing but have substantial ash, burned debris in their yards from neighboring structures and from fences burned and plants burned? Colonel Swenson and LA County Public Works, Chris Shepard, can you please answer that question?
Yes, so the private property debris removal program only applies to eligible fire damaged properties. So if it is a fence or shrubs around the property, but the property itself is not eligible, then it is likely not to be an eligible property for our program. But FEMA is the ultimate determiner of eligibility under this program.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That's clear. So then follow-up question to that from Julie Jensen is, how will those homes that are still standing handle debris cleanup? Is there any resources or guidance that folks may have about those homes that may not qualify in regards to FEMA's designation, but still want to make sure that their homes are cleaned up? Chris Shepherd from LA
Yeah, that's-
County Public Works, could you answer that question?
For City of LA residents, I would defer to city sanitation services on cleanup that'll be available from city properties.
Julie Allen from the Department of Sanitation, would you like to share a few words on that topic?
Evening, Julie Allen with sanitation. If this is regarding cleanup of debris on the private property, city sanitation will not perform that work.
So just to clarify, so the debris removal program, like the Colonel said, is just for destroyed structures. And so, yeah, it would be the residents to clean the property. Ted?
I see Ted Allen, General Manager or Chief Engineer for the City of Los Angeles. I see your hand. Please feel free to jump in.
Hi, everyone. Ted Allen, City Engineer. Chris, I think there was county health guidance as far as removing that debris, right? That it could go in the general trash stream if they're not part of the private property debris removal program. Am I remembering correctly?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll get guidance out on that, since the answer that's being provided is the individual properties that are not completely destroyed will have to take care of debris removal. However, we should probably provide some city guidance so that people are clear about how to do that, and we'll make sure to follow up on that as we move through these phases. Thank you, everybody. Another question that has come up a few different times is about pools. So Lori Kudzil is asking, are pools included in the Army Corps of Engineers debris removal? Why or why not? Please answer,
So we
Colonel
do not-
Eric Swenson.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Pools are not eligible for the private property debris removal program. However, we will hand clean around them, and then we will follow all the OSHA requirements, and we'll put fencing up around it to prevent someone from falling in it once we leave.
Thank you, Colonel. So pools are not included, but fencing will be provided. I see a hand from our sanitation department leadership, Julie Allen.
Yes, good evening. So I did want to point out, when the residents are allowed to discharge their pools into the sewer system, they should not drain them into the gutter, which will end up in the storm drain system and out to the ocean. So it's requested that residents remove debris first before draining the pools into the sewer, because it can clog the sewer system. And that can be done either by straining the water in the pool itself before it's discharged, or putting a screen over the sewer, 1/4 inch opening or smaller, to catch the debris before it goes in the sewer. And it should not be done during storm events or within 24 hours of a storm event, so that we can make sure that we don't send too much water into the sewer system while it's raining. And we
Thank you,
can
Julie. We'll
put
go
more
ahead and
guidance
get-
together.
Yes, we'll get guidance out to everybody specifically on how to go about doing that. Appreciate that guidance so far. Thank you. Our next question is from Michelle Safroth. This is a question regarding insurance. I know Chris Shepherd from LA County Public Works did provide some information about insurance, but I want to make sure it's very clear. So there's a concern that if you opt into remediation and assign insurance proceeds to the county government, then you later decide to opt out. How does that process work? Chris, can you go through what you said before in a little bit greater detail?
Sure. So it's a withdrawal. So there will be a withdrawal form that you can request and withdraw from the program. And as I said before, if no work has been done on your property, then there's no assignment of insurance proceeds for that work.
Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor, go ahead.
I just wanted to add in an announcement that we are going to have our next webinar will be with our insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara. We know that people have a lot of insurance questions. We have it will be on Thursday from 5 to 6, kind of in the same format. And so people should bring, I also know that he has done a couple of in-person in-person workshops so people can come with their very specific questions. And when we do the one-stop center where all of the resources will be there for the rebuild, we will make sure that we have a area for the insurance industry and our insurance commissioner. So this is the announcement about the town hall this coming Thursday, 5 to 6. Bring all of your questions around insurance.
Thank you, Mayor. And we'll go ahead and put that registration link in the chat as well. Appreciate that. I think that we were able to answer the general question that Michelle was raising in regards to insurance money being available to residents as long as the remediation work has not been completed by the Army Corps. Then that insurance proceeds will be available to the individual homeowner. If they decide to opt out later down the line, they can retrieve the insurance money and go to the opt-out program if that's what they choose to do. Correct, Chris?
As long as no work has been performed by the Army Corps, correct.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. All right, this is another question from Helen Levitt. This is to the EPA. Steve, if you could please answer. How do you plan to move and store the contaminated debris? And of course, this would also be another question for the Army Corps, Colonel Swenson, because you are dealing with different types of hazardous material and debris. Steve, can you talk about how you plan to not expose neighboring neighborhoods to airborne contamination? And how do you plan to make sure that there's adequate containment of any hazardous material?
Sure. So we are, as I mentioned, standing up 32 teams for the Palisades. Each team is configured of 10 people. They're outfitted with a variety of different equipment, but the main piece of equipment there is a stake bed truck that is loaded with poly drums, chemical drums that we use for transporting hazardous waste on cleanup sites. When our team picks up household hazardous materials in the course of clearing a parcel, they're segregating the waste. They're putting like waste with like waste. So solvents all go in one drum, paints all go in another. Every time we transport it, we containerize. We put the lid on the containers. Nothing is coming off or falling off the truck. We take it to we have a staging area down on PCH where at the end of the day, all of our team's trucks offload and we do more consolidation of like wastes, largely in large tote boxes. And then from there, we load those, when they're full, we load those tote boxes on big box vans and haul them off for disposal at approved and certified hazardous waste disposal facilities. So it's really quick by the time we get the waste out of the property, out of the community, and on its way to a hazardous waste disposal facility.
Thank you, Steve. Colonel Swenson, would you like to add? I know we talked about the burrito method and the wet method. What else can you say and add to in regards to ensuring that it's safe when you're transporting the debris?
Yeah, so one of the things we do is we remove debris in what we call the wet method. So we wet down the property first and the debris first so that it's less likely to be airborne. And we continually spray or mist the debris during the process to ensure that it doesn't get airborne. It does, as I said, it does go into that burrito, which keeps all of the fire ash contained. We also our teammates will be wearing individual air monitors, and we'll have perimeter air monitors up, and that is so that we can monitor how well our defenses are against airborne dust or airborne particulates. So we constantly monitor that data, and we adjust our methods to ensure that we are eliminating or minimizing any dust that occurs as a result of our operations.
Thank you so much, Colonel. We have another question from Chris Stevenson. Chris is asking, if our home was part of a multi-unit townhome community, which has all been destroyed, but it's also part of a larger HOA, should each unit submit the debris removal form, or should the HOA submit for the entire community? Chris Shepard from the LA County Public Works, can you please answer that?
Yeah, That's a great question. So our recommendation is that each owner of a destroyed unit submit a debris form as well as the HOA. And then properties of that nature will be evaluated, both for the ownership on our side and for a qualification with the Army Corps.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay, we'll move on to a few other questions here. I see one question here in the chat regarding where will this video be posted after these sessions, today's session and future sessions that we're planning on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. They will be posted on Mayor Karen Bass's YouTube page, which we will circulate for you and your neighbors to be able to go back to these videos in the future. I have a question from Nancy Morris that we'll go to next. Nancy is asking, if filling out the form for an elderly resident family member, what kind of verification will be required for the debris removal form? How do you recommend that an individual who is working on behalf of another older individual who may not be able to fill out the form themselves, what do you need? Chris, LA County Public Works.
Yes, so if you're filling out the form, if you're signing on behalf of somebody else, you would need power of attorney documentation or documentation showing that you have authority to sign on behalf of that individual. If you're just, if they're signing the documents, but you're just submitting on their behalf, including your contact information in the email application, or if you're filling out the online form, will then help us to get in touch with you to have those follow-up conversations about ownership verification.
Thank you, Chris. So there's a number of questions in the chat regarding the statement that this process is free, okay? So people are saying, is it really free because my insurance company is gonna pay the county? And then there's another question about, aren't the homeowners being charged by the Army Corps of Engineers? So between our County Public Works team, represented here by Chris and Colonel Swenson from the Army Corps, could you please clarify what is the process in which the county may receive insurance money, as well as Army Corps? Are there charges that the Army Corps will be processing to homeowners outside of the insurance? And I see Mr. Bob Fenton from FEMA also wanting to jump in. We'll go to you, Bob, and then Chris and Colonel Swenson if there's additional information that they would like to share. Bob, were you raising your hand?
Yeah, it was. So FEMA cannot duplicate other funding that's available to the homeowner. We've been involved in many fires, so we task U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to remove the debris. That is funded through FEMA money to go ahead and do that debris removal. If there is an insurance recovery for that, and there's a specific line item in your insurance policy, and it's not used by the homeowner for any other debris removal toward reconstruction, then the county will work with you to make sure that offsets against any funding provided by FEMA. I would tell you, this is my experience of doing this in disasters over the last 10 years of fires in California. The cost to remove the debris will be in far excess of what the insurance policy is. And so therefore, I think it's a great value to the homeowner to opt into the Corps of Engineers debris removal, as your insurance policy typically does not cover the full amount, and you'll still be able to use that for any incidental debris removal or any additional work with regard to debris during the reconstruction, any costs left over. If there is no line item in your policy, then we will not take, and it's not a duplicate to what we're providing.
Thank you, Mr. Fenton. And a follow-up question from Michelle Paquette. If you don't have insurance, but you opt into the Army Corps program, is it free to you? Mr. Fenton?
I'm sorry, say it again. If you do not opt in?
If you do not have insurance and you opt in to the Army Corps program.
Yeah, it's free. There's no cost. This is, FEMA has authority to mitigate public health threats underneath our authority. We went ahead and approved private property debris removal. as long as someone opts into the process, signs the right of entry, we can task the Corps of Engineers to mitigate that threat and remove that debris.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are here at the tail end of our hour here. We are going to be coming back at you on Thursday with the insurance commissioner and in future Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I do want to get to one more question and then allow Mayor Bass to wrap us up. The last question, there are several people in the chat that have questions about assessing the foundation. How do you all recommend that homeowners assess their foundation to determine how to fill out the right of entry form? Any recommendations from the Army Corps of Engineers or the Public Works team? Colonel Swenson and Chris?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The Corps of Engineers does not do structural assessments of foundations. So we basically take our instructions from the right of entry form for when the homeowner either opts in to have their concrete foundation removed or opts out, and we would do the removal but leave their foundation behind. I will just say as a cautionary note, if you opt into the program and you want us to keep your foundation, the debris removal process is an equipment intensive process. And in the process of bringing heavy equipment onto your property to remove all of that fire ash and debris, there could be damage incidental to the private property debris removal program, which could impact the viability of your foundation. Additionally, not all foundations, in previous fires, not all foundations have been deemed worthy to rebuild on, which is why this program is available for individuals who either want to rebuild with a different footprint or are unable to rebuild because their foundation is deemed to be structurally unsafe. But the Corps of Engineers does not make that determination. That is really a decision that the homeowner should come to in consultation with a structural engineer, a soils engineer, someone qualified to make that determination.
Thank you very much. Chris, do you have anything to add to that answer, or does that pretty much cover it? All right. So with that, I see Mr. Soborov's hand. We are at time, Mr. Soborov. Please be brief, and then we're going to pass it to Mayor Bass to wrap us up. Steve.
Just a question. I can't imagine a situation where you'd want to leave your foundation. In those foundations, the amount of heat that was in those areas may have damaged the pipes underneath. And I just wonder what people think about it. It's really hard to figure why, especially under this program where you can have your foundation taken out, why someone would choose to leave their foundation, knowing the kind of damage that might be done to the utility lines that are in their foundation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Also,
Mayor
is the councilwoman still with us?
I think she had to jump off a little bit early to head to another event.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me just thank everybody for participating in this. And a couple of things I wanted to say. There are a lot of questions in the chat, and what we're going to work on is grouping the questions together in a category and responding. And then we will let you know when you can access that. So that's something that we will move to do, because I don't want people's questions to go unanswered, but obviously on a short call like this, there's only so many we could take. So give us a couple of days to work that out. The other thing is that I want to make sure that any expert that you want to hear from that we bring on. So we knew, for example, there would be a lot of questions around insurance, but I'm also hearing that there might be a lot of questions around taxes as well. And so I think we could ask our county assessor, Jeffrey Prang, to come on and do a session. So if there are specific decision makers, specific people you would like to hear from, or you have a lot of questions, please let us know. The goal of this is to make sure that you have all of the access that you need, that you get your questions answered, and that we're able to focus on our number one commitment, and that is getting you back at home and getting Pacific Palisades rebuilt. Thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you Thursday with Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bass. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. The links are in the chat for this coming Thursday's webinar at 5 p.m. with Insurance Commissioner Lara. I also put into the chat the phone numbers for all of the questions. If you want a quick answer, you're welcome to call the EPA hotline as well as the LA County Public Works Fire Debris Hotline, which are in the chat. Those answers they're providing in real time. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.